Hello again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to the first Meet the Opposition of the season. I'm going to record these and do them live as we go throughout the year, and I absolutely can't wait for this first one. Liverpool, only days away. The excitement is building. I am absolutely buzzing. Come Saturday morning, you're going to have to peel me off the ceiling. Huge. Liverpool Premier League campaign kicking off. Ipswich Town involved. I literally have to pinch myself on the daily. Before we go any further, like, subscribe, tell the world about Talking Town. And don't forget, we are partnered with Match Bingo once again for the forthcoming year. Play Match Bingo, win cash prizes. Look no further than Match Bingo, the ultimate interactive game that lets you play alongside live football while raising funds for the East Anglian Air Ambulance. An absolutely crucial service, I'm sure you agree. And Match Bingo have got an absolutely fantastic offer to start the season. Start the season off with a bang. Get £20 free when you deposit £10. All Premier League games for August are buy 3 cards, get 2 free. That's all Premier League games for August are buy 3 cards, get 2 free. And Bingo's for the new season is buy 2 cards, get 1 free. What an absolutely brilliant offer from Match Bingo. But be gamble aware, over 18s only. We had a fantastic year last year with Match Bingo. I know some viewers won some great prizes, some great cash on there, but be gamble aware, over 18s only. Right, joining me for this first one is Steve from RedMen TV. RedMen TV are a Liverpool platform, and they've got over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. Absolutely big hitters, some great content on there. Go and check it out. I absolutely loved going through their video content over the last couple of weeks. I sat down with Steve and I asked him, just for, starters, a new era under Arne Slot. How are you feeling coming into the season? And just what are the expectations for Liverpool this year?
Yeah, it's certainly new, isn't it? So it's certainly exciting. Always excited. The day that I'm not excited for the start of the season is the day that I won't be doing any of this anymore, because that's what we're in it for, the matches. All the other stuff is kind of all focused on this. So it really, really excited. Something new, something we haven't experienced for a long time. Obviously, Jürgen took over in October 2015. It's now August 2024. So it's a long time since Liverpool I've had a change of manager or head coach in this instance. So it's definitely something exciting, a little bit of a step into the unknown. So yeah, looking forward to it. Always a bit nervous. Why wouldn't you be? But the main feeling is excitement. And then expectations is a really, really tough one. Because when you're Liverpool and when you're the Liverpool head coach or whatever, the expectation is you have to do well, you have to succeed, you have to be challenged for trophies. But for a guy in his first season at the club, and he's obviously going to implement some type of changes. Liverpool haven't exactly flooded the transfer market either. They haven't done anything in terms of incoming. No. So the expectations, I think, is tough, but it would be difficult, I think, to say Liverpool have to win the league. I think that's probably a bit unrealistic to say they have to be able to do that. So I think being in the Champions League is always the key. No one likes to hear that in terms of top 4, but for me, I just want to see the players and the manager adapt well to because it is going to be a change, continue to be successful. And like I say, if they can be challenging for trophies come April, May, then I think that's a successful season. But yeah, the putting it defined, like you have to win X, Y, and Z, I think that would be harsh on him. But I think we have to see that his plan is going to work, or what the ideas of his philosophy. You guys have been through something very similar with a manager who, he had to come in and he had to show that his identity was one that could work. And I mean, his success was extraordinary, and what he's done. It's a bit different. Obviously, I don't think Arne Slot is taking over a team that is really that struggling like Ipswich were before Kieran McKenna took over. Now Arne Slot's taking over a team that won a trophy and finished 3rd in the league. So, but I do think we'd have to see some, that whatever he's trying to implement, just that it looks like he knows what he's doing, and that it looks like the players get it. So I think that's there or thereabouts. But listen, if you get to February, March as Liverpool manager and it looks like you're not going to win anything, people will be disappointed with that. I think that's just the nature of the beast when you're at this type of level of football club.
This is it. And we were saying before we started, Liverpool global reach, big clubs. Absolutely. It's going to be progress is what you want to see. And 3rd place is, finished last season. You want to see that continue, I guess, at Anfield. And you mentioned the transfers there. And it's been a funny window from the outside looking in for Liverpool. A frustrating window because obviously you've missed out on one of your top targets only recently. How have you seen sort of the transfer or lack of business for Arne
Yeah,
Slot.
yeah, you're frustrated probably the way. I think when the new manager and the new sporting director took over, and bear in mind they took over in a summer when there was a Copa America and the Euros and the Olympics, and so the message always was we'll assess the squad in pre-season, we'll take them on the tour of America, we'll see what we've got, and then we'll make some decisions. The decision was clearly made that he wanted Martin Zubimendi, like a ball playing type of number 6 role, different than what Liverpool had. Liverpool's number 6 was Endo, he's a different type of player. That isn't his game. His game was, almost more defensive minded, and then get the ball back, protect the back four, give it to the other players. Arne Slot clearly looks like wants someone who can get the ball off the centre backs, play through the lines. In pre-season, he used Ryan Gravenberch, Curtis Jones, Szoboszlai, even young Trey and Yanni. They're not what you'd call defensive-minded players. They're all very attack-minded players. So he clearly identified that role as something he wanted. Liverpool thought he had Martin Zubimendi come in. He'd give him the word. He changed his mind. And now, we start the season in a few days' time without that player that it was clear the manager wanted. So I think they were right to say, give us a little bit of time, look at the squad, make some decisions, that kind of stuff. But that decision was clearly made and it hasn't gone through. And I'm not saying it's Liverpool's fault per se. If a player changes his mind, that can happen, of course. But this is a new regime. This is Richard Hughes, his first major attempt at something, didn't quite work out. That comes on the back of they nearly signed Anthony Gordon very early in the window when Newcastle had their PSR problems, and it looked like Liverpool were willing to do that. They were going to let Joe Gomez go the other way. That fell through. So the 2 players that they've tried to get in the door so far, that's fallen through. And for a new sporting director, for his first 2 attempts at signing players, both to hit hurdles for different reasons, and like I say, in isolation, neither of those things are really his fault. Newcastle sold somebody else, the player changed his mind. But when you add it all together, it doesn't look great. The first 2 signings he's tried to make. So we're going to go into the Ipswich game with the same squad, which is fine. Liverpool got a very good squad, but an additional 2 wouldn't go amiss. So it's like you used the perfect word before. It's been quite frustrating not to have something. I think it's a little bit unfair on Arne Slot actually as well. He clearly wanted this and it hasn't worked out for him. So whether Liverpool now decide there's someone else or they stick with what they've got, I don't know. But ideally, I don't think you ever want to start the season and then bring players in. Ideally, you want them bedded in before the season starts when you've got more time to train and get your ideas across. So that hasn't been ideal.
This is it, exactly. Well, obviously with a new style of play, you'd imagine, or certainly a new manager with new ideas and a new voice. You want those players in the building to get that nice and early and get them up to speed, as it were. And you're right, it's been a sort of a hard summer to take control of a club of Liverpool's size, with 2 major tournaments going on and big players there, and attention's turned elsewhere. But you've had pre-season, you've tried a host of players in that 6 role, and you mentioned you've got absolute wealth. As a club at Ipswich Town, we're looking at it, wow, they've got this, they've got that, they've got this. How has pre-season gone in terms of style of play? Is there major changes from Klopp to Slot, or is it not much difference in terms of how they want to play the way there, as it were?
It's interesting because when a lot of the reporting and when Richard Hughes spoke about Arne Slot, they did say they didn't want too big of a change away from Jurgen, which is why Arne Slot in the data he compared favourably in Jurgen. I think without the ball, I think you can see some very, very big similarities. High press, intense, trying to win the ball back. 4 men go and press and try and take the ball off the opposition. Centre halves are there to cut things out, all that kind of stuff. So I think that is a similarity. I think with the ball, Liverpool look a lot different actually.
Okay.
The goalkeeper playing and the defenders play out a little bit more. Liverpool were never a long ball team, but it was often if Van Dijk had it, he'd either slide into his midfield or he'd go long to either flank. Liverpool have definitely got more an emphasis on drawing teams towards them by keeping the ball. Playing a little bit like Man City do, where they play along their own goal line almost and try and play out and try and keep hold of the ball. I was lucky enough to be on the tour of America. We got to go to one of the training sessions, and the entire session was all about keeping the ball and possession of the ball, and we don't give the ball away. Under Jurgen, I think it was a little bit more chaotic, or you wouldn't mind if you give the ball away as long as you want it back quickly. Arne Slot isn't that really. He very much is every cliche or thing that was coming out of his mouth in these sessions or at the games, and I was lucky enough to be close enough to him, is about keeping the ball and moving the ball. So I think actually it is a big change with that. The shape is kind of different. Jürgen very much preferred one midfielder with two in front of him. This looks more like 2 in a 1 almost. It was interesting because we were at his first press conference, and my boss Chris asked him about formation and said, 4-2-3-1, you guys, that's what you like to play. And Arne Slot pretty much shot him down and said, he basically said, I don't play 4-2-3-1. I've never have. It's more to 4-3-3. And then, but every time I watch the games, man, it's 4-2-3-1. It very much looks like 4-2-3-1, which is different. So I think there are very much differences with the ball. Liverpool look a lot different, actually. They've still, of course, got blistering pace at times, and we saw against Sevilla at the weekend downfield, ball to Salah, looking at Diaz, like that kind of stuff looked a little bit familiar, but it isn't as close to Jürgen as I thought it was going to be when it was announced that it was going to be Arne Slot, because we were told it was going to be very much like Jürgen.
Yeah.
It definitely isn't.
Okay, so a team that, likes to keep possession and draw teams upon them and then spring that counter, as it were, having broke the press, and away you go, which with the players you've got, your Trents, your Salahs, etc., it's going to be something that Liverpool will be pretty strong at, you'd imagine, as the season progresses. And you mentioned McKenna, who Town fans absolutely love and adore. And you mentioned Ipswich. You start with us, which is why we're doing this video. What do you know about us? And from the outside looking in, what's your thoughts on Ipswich in terms of what we could achieve this season, etc.?
Yeah, listen, you can't help but be impressed with back-to-back promotions in the style that they've done it as well. Teams have done this. Teams have come, had 2 successive seasons. I always think the gap between League One and the Championship, I don't think is as big, but I think you can do that. If you've got a philosophy and good players, I think you can go up and up again. This gap now is a big one, and I don't think anyone will argue with that. But you can't help but be impressed. I think the key, you mentioned McKenna, like keeping him when it was there was rumours going around early in the summer that he was potentially on Chelsea's shortlist and a few other clubs. I think I was thinking that then that would be a huge loss for Ipswich, because I think, there is going to be a deficit in talent along the way. That you just have to accept that is what it is, and how you bridge that is with good coaching and good management. I think Brentford have been an example of that a little bit. Yeah. I wouldn't suggest Brentford have got superstar players. They've got a couple of really good players, don't get me wrong, Ivan Tonys and Buemos and things, but they haven't got anyone who you'd say super duper stars. But the coaching and the manager and the tactics and the fan base and all that thing coming together has made Brentford pretty successful in the Premier League so far. So I think Ipswich definitely needed to keep the manager. I think without him, I would have been very worried. My guess is, of course, like Ipswich will be in a relegation battle for most of the season. And listen, if they're not fantastic, fair play to them, because not every team comes up and struggles. Some teams can, take to it like a duck to water. But I think for a club that was, more than me, but it looked like Ipswich are floundering. You know what I mean? There seemed to be controversy after controversy and mess after mess, and new manager, and it goes well and then it goes bad, and the relegations. It felt like one of those teams where you were almost getting to a point where you forgot that Ipswich used to be a Premier League team. They were very much, they were an EFL team who just, it was so long ago. We were kids when Ipswich were a Premier League team. So it always felt like something special would have to happen to get it. And this is what I think this is the key of coaching, really. I mentioned before the levels at that level. A good manager and a good coach can see you rise up with, of course, a good recruitment policy, and obviously the loan system has very much helped Ipswich as well. But they've got about it, haven't they, the right way. But the step up, and I'll probably ask you a question. Like, I've seen teams come up and try and play football, and for some of them it's worked. A Brighton, for example, have really done it. But then I remember us playing Norwich City on opening day of the season, and they tried to play footy against us, and they just kept giving the ball away, and Liverpool just kept punishing them. Yeah. And that's the key, isn't it? Like, he's going to stick to his principles. It's whether, I always think at Championship level, League One level, your mistakes aren't punished. For every 5 mistakes you make, you might get away with 3 or 4 of them. In the Premier League, you'll be lucky to get away with 1. You won't get away with 2. So that's the key, isn't it? I am right in saying he's not going to change. It looks like it's going to be one bit.
We've seen a little bit of a change of formation in pre-season towards the back end in terms of moving away from what we have played, maybe more to a two traditional fullbacks or wing backs with a back three. Muric, our goalkeeper, has just arrived from Burnley. You know, we are looking like a team that can perhaps on different occasions play a different way, and that's the key with McKenna, and that's the key with coaching. And you're so right in the sense of, you know, teams have come up, like your Brightons, your Bournemouths. I know Bournemouth came back down and went back a couple of times. Your Brentfords that do come up and take to it and survive and then progress from there. And we've seen teams, you know, last year, Burnley, for example, being one, come up, stick to principles, as it were, and then sort of go back down. But McKenna is that type of coach where he treats each game in its individual merits. He will look at Liverpool, for example, particularly the same sort of squad from last year, and only start elsewhere, and try and work a game plan out each week, as opposed to this is our way and this is how we're going to play it. And he'll have his principles. Don't get me wrong. He'll have his, you know, his front foot pressing. He'll have his, you know, aggressiveness in terms of Leif Davis's position. You know, record assists in the Championship last year, because primarily he wasn't a left back. He was a left winger that was tasked with getting forward more than worrying perhaps about his defensive position. So yeah, it's interesting to see how we do approach it. And as fans, we're looking at this first two fixtures. You know, Liverpool up first, then Man City. What a welcome to the Premier League that is. As free hits, if you like, in the sense of you're not expected to get anything against these two sides. If you do, brilliant. They're Brucey bonuses. But from my perspective, I was 11 the last time Town played Liverpool. I won't about the result. It was a really bad result. We got relegated on that day. But I was 11. I'm looking forward to seeing your Trent Alexanders, your other top players. You know, I've sat through so many years, Steve, where it's just been absolutely dreadful. And we were floundering. I remember looking on the show several times. Have we moved out a 10th position in League One? Have we moved up? No, we haven't. You know, now we're in the Premier League. We have to pinch ourselves on these moments, and but we have to be realistic. And it is a great start for Arne Slot, isn't it? In terms of the kindest, or if not the kindest fixture he could have gotten.
Yeah, maybe you say that, but I think the free thing kind of plays into it, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're Ipswich, you probably say, when's the best time to play Liverpool or a City? It's very early on in the season, and it's probably at home. Early kickoff, all that kind of stuff. Maybe it just levels it up a little bit, because I always think, you know, teams who come up, you get that bounce, like you'll be buzzing. Of course, you should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
The players will be absolutely buzzing. The adrenaline will be high. Portman Road, it'll be bouncing. Of course, it will. I always think when you get to October, November, December, if there's been a bad run and the morale's low, you know, you might have lost the last 3 of the last 4, or what, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's a good time when you want to go then to a team who maybe did a bit demoralised. So I think actually, if you're Ipswich, you probably think if you're going to play Liverpool, get them first game at home and get it out the way. And
that's what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you get something out of it, fine. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. The fans aren't gonna. There's gonna be no. If Ipswich are bottom of the league on 0 points after these 2 games, I'd be shocked if any Town fans are crying now for the manager's head or something. You know what I mean? Because it's Liverpool and Manchester City. So I think from Arne Slot's point of view, I think, you know, we played against Sevilla at the weekend, and he changed the kickoff time to 12:30 to mirror the preparation, because it's obviously something new to him, and the players will be used to it. But it's never ideal. I don't think it's the end of the world when it's the first game. You know, it's not like you're coming off a Europa League Wednesday or Thursday into an early kickoff, or Champions League. But no, listen, I think, like I say, I disagree. Actually, I was saying when the fixtures come out, listen, you'll take it. It's not the worst. It could have been a lot worse. You know, we went to Chelsea away last year, for example, and that was a difficult game for Liverpool. But it's not one that you'd handpick. I don't think newly promoted sides away early kickoff first game of the season. You know, you'd much rather be at home. You'd rather it be, you know, against a team who you probably know a little bit more about. Yeah. You know, as much as you say, like, you are right. If Kieran McKenna has a couple of tactical tweaks up his sleeve, or a couple of changes, a couple of new players, for example, Liverpool aren't going to really know much about that. So, man for man, of course, Liverpool are going to be stronger, and if they play well, they should win. But I think it's probably the best time, if you're a newly promoted side, to get one of the big hitters, get them early, get them at home, and just see if you can, you know, catch them cold. You know, Liverpool are going to go into this game with the likes of Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, McAllister, having played somewhere about 60 to 80 minutes of football in pre-season. They haven't kicked, you know, they've had 1 game.
Yeah.
So maybe you can try and catch them cold, whereas in a few weeks' time, they'd probably be more up to speed.
Yeah, and of course a short break in terms of playing in the Euros and other tournaments, and coming into the season. You mentioned some wonderful players there, and we could go through 1 to 11, but really it's the attacking players. Football's a moments game that is probably going to hinge on. What's the front? Where first of all, where will Trent play? Because I know he can play. He's been playing central midfield, a bit of last season. He can play right back, obviously. Where do you feel Trent will play? And also, what will your front three be that Town fans have to really sort of watch in awe, but also worry about?
Yeah, so I tend to play right back, definitely. Now, he wanders into midfield sometimes. He even did that again in Sevilla. That was very much something introduced very late on in the Jurgen Klopp era, maybe the last season and a half, maybe, where he started getting Trent in the midfield just to outnumber teams. But he'll start as a right back. He had another wonderful assist at the weekend for
yeah, I saw it.
Friendly for Diogo Jota, which is another wonderful goal. So yeah, Trent will play right back, and he'll try and dictate the game from there. Again, he is the one who can play those long passes, but he's almost given a free role from right back. That's just how good he is. In terms of the attacking players, Salah definitely on the right.
Of course.
And then honestly, there's a case to be made for all of them. Against Sevilla, it was Jota up front with Luis Diaz on the left. But then we also played another friend against Las Palmas in the afternoon, like later on. He was on a slot with both a lot of the players, 90 minutes or as close as he can. And he had Gakpo and Nunez left and central. So my guess is it would be Diaz, Jota, Salah, but then with Gakpo and Nunez on the bench. So they've got some strong attacking options. Jota looked in good nick the other day. Diaz scored 2 goals. Salah has been our best player in pre-season. He looks, he ended last season injured and fighting with the manager, and it was all a bit deflating, but he looks back to his best. He's captained the team in Van Dijk and Trent's absence throughout the pre-season. So my guess would be it'd be that front three, with probably Szoboszlai just behind him in that like number 10 type role, McAllister as well, and then the manager has a decision on who plays as a 6, whether it be Jones or Gravenberch. I would guess probably Gravenberch, and then the only other ones, just to clarify, the only 2 like selection issues he's got at the moment are: is Andy Robertson fit enough to start at left back? He's been nursing an injury that he picked up with Scotland.
He played in the friendly, didn't he, against
the second one? He captained
the
yeah. But Timikas, I thought it was interesting, played in the first one with the big guns. So I don't know if that's a nod to see where Andrew Robertson's at fitness wise. And then centre back, he's got to decide who plays next to Van Dijk, whether it's Konate or Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa, again, has been around all pre-season. He started the Sevilla game as well. He ended last season with the shirt. I personally think he's the better option now. He's better on the ball. And if Liverpool are going to be playing out, maybe that. I mean, he made an absolute horrendous error against Seville. And they should have scored, and thankfully they fluffed their lines. But towards the end of last season, Konate's brilliant. He really is. He's excellent. He's a physical freak, and he's fast, strong, kicks people, wins the ball, everything he wants. But teams were quite comfortable letting him have the ball against them. They didn't think he could hurt them, where Kwanzaa definitely can. So I think maybe the manager will edge towards Kwanzaa. But yeah, the interesting one is that number 6 role. We spoke about it at the top of the show with the transfers. We haven't. Endo is the only natural, what you'd say, number 6 in the team, and then there's young Stefan Bacchetta, who's kind of been converted into that by Klopp. The manager seemingly doesn't favour either of those, so it's going to be a very attack-minded number 6. So if you're Ipswich, maybe that is something you look to exploit in terms of can you get at them without, when they haven't got the ball, can you try and run past them? But it's going to be a very attack-minded Liverpool team. It's going to be 3 very good attackers and 3 attacking midfielders with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson. Like, I don't think Liverpool are playing for many 0-0s. I think they're going out there to try and score some goals. And to be fair, they've done that all pre-season. They've looked very, very dangerous in attack.
Okay, excellent. You mentioned Gakpo there, obviously interesting play, because am I right in saying sort of a bit of a frustrating year for him last year in terms of playing for Liverpool, but then a fantastic tournament that reminded people what sort of player he is, and you're hoping from a Liverpool perspective you can build on that, aren't you? Really, then he takes that form and sort of runs with it next season.
Yeah, he's been one of those guys, like a victim of his own versatility. He started last season, ironically, like as a number 10 like midfield role. Didn't work. to be honest with you. Just the balance looked off, and before he'd had his whole pre-season almost training for that role, and after like 2 games, it got knocked on the head, and he wasn't that no more. And then it was like trying to fit him into the team somewhere. So sometimes he played right, left, centre, and he was never first choice in any of them. He had a good League Cup. You know, he scored loads of goals in the League Cup, but he never quite got there anywhere else. His issue is at the moment his best positioning looks like it's off the left. But the manager, you know, that's where Liverpool have got loads of options. Diaz wants to play from the left. Jota can play from the left. Nunes has played from the left at times as well. And you've got him. He's very much like a link-up type of centre forward, and I'm not sure that's what Arne Slot wants. I think he wants his striker going the other way because he's got 2 attacking midfielders to do that stuff. So Gakpo's issue has kind of been where does he fit in the team? But he's clearly very talented. He knows where the goal is. He probably needs to show that a little bit more. He's probably, I'd say at times last season, he was like 5th choice out of those 5 in terms of the attacking role. But it isn't a bad 5th choice to have. You know, one of the best players at the Euros. You know, it shows that Liverpool have actually got some strength and depth. But yeah, I think, and again, he's only been around a few weeks because the Netherlands went quite far in that tournament. It's I think the manager's got to figure out where he plays and then give him a run there when he does, because I think one of the criticisms of Jürgen last season focused around Gakpo came like he never really had a chance. You know, he was being moved around far too much and never had time to settle in one role. He was very much doing other people's roles. So, you know, the Dutch connection with Arne Slot might open something up, but he's clearly a very talented player. You know, he's a really good player. Yeah,
absolutely. We saw that in the Euros, and we're all building our fantasy Premier League teams at this time of year, particularly Town fans. First time Town are in it. Or certainly first time for a long time Town are in it. But if there was one Liverpool player that you could tell Town fans watching, go and pick up because this guy's going to get you the points, which one would it be?
The obvious ones are Trent and Salah. The obvious ones, aren't they? I'd have that. If you haven't got Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah in your team, I think you're struggling. I think they're going to. If Liverpool score a lot of goals, those 2 will be involved in it. I would say Szoboszlai is an outside shout because Arne Slot has said he wants more goals from his midfield, or he wants to know his attacking midfielders. And Szoboszlai, we saw it in pre-season a couple of times. We saw it against Sevilla as well, making that 3rd man run. So when Jota comes deep, someone goes. And for what we've seen so far, that has been Szoboszlai. So I think he could be a sneaky one. You know, those midfield goals are valuable in FPL, aren't they? And I think he could be one to keep an eye on. It looks like, Harvey Elliott, I love Harvey Elliott, but as it stands, it looks like he's on the bench, and it's going to be McAllister and Szoboszlai as that 2 who start. So I'd definitely keep an eye on him. And then I always think, I always think Andy Robertson, if Liverpool are going to go back to a more possession-based style for at the back kind of stuff, Robertson at times last year was almost more defense. Trent was going. It was Trent's job, and Robertson was almost like the auxiliary 3rd fullback. Yeah. It looks like if Liverpool are going to do things differently and maybe attack from both flanks. Andy Robbo's assist numbers in the past have always been great. He went down a bit last year because of the style of play, so I wouldn't sleep on him. Getting, if Liverpool are going to attack like they look like they're going to do on both flanks, then he's definitely a good option as well. But
excellent.
Honestly, put Trent in your team because you'll be mental not to. Like if you can find the right back who's going to get as many assists and goals, he takes the free kicks, he takes the corners, he does everything. I think you have to have him in the sides because he's a points machine on FPL.
Yeah, I'll stick my Town tinted glasses on and say he's the right back equivalent of Arleif Davis on the left. You know, after last year's assists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And many will say, but he's not played for England. But you know, Leif should have gone with the England squad this year. And I'll say that until the cows come home. I've only got 2 more questions for you, Steve, before I let you go. And I really appreciate your time. So thanks for joining me. First of all, a score prediction for Saturday.
Yep, 3-1 to Liverpool.
That's all right. I expect you to say Liverpool, and 3-1 it seems a fairly popular score for going by our prediction league. And I got a question from one of our viewers on our Discord, and it's a really interesting one. And I just want to put it to you and see what you thought. And he asked, do you feel comfortable with so many big hitters, Van Dijk, Trent, coming to the last year of their contracts, or is it time for them to move on, etc.? What are your thoughts on that one?
No, I don't feel comfortable with that at all. It's horrendous. I think if you said name Liverpool's 5 best players, Van Dijk, Salah and Trent would be on everyone's list.
Absolutely.
And Alisson might be on there as well. And there's talk that they're looking to sign a goalkeeper with a view to letting Alisson go soon. So Yeah, so Van Dijk and Salah and Trent are all in their last year of their contracts. Trent's the priority. It has to be, just given the age and the profile and you know what he's worth to the football club. So no, the question's absolutely valid. No, I'm not at all comfortable. This is what can happen when your manager announces he's leaving. What was it? December, January, I think the manager announced. It was just before we played Norwich in the FA Cup. So then at that point, all contract negotiations stopped because everyone wanted to see who the new manager was going to be, who's the new new sporting director was coming in. We had a temporary sporting director in place, Jörg Schmadtke, while they were figuring out who they got. So no, by circumstance, and we're now in a position where Liverpool's best players are all coming up to being out of contract. So no, absolutely not comfortable at all. In terms of moving them on, definitely not Trent, obviously. I would be saying no to all of them. I think it would be unfair on Arne Slot for him to have to do that big a rebuild after in his first 6 months to a year. So ideally, you want Trent tied down to as longer term contract as possible, a 5-year one or whatever. Van Dijk and Salah in their early to mid 30s. I've seen nothing from Van Dijk that suggests he's slowing down. He was outrageously good last season. Yeah. So, and he's the captain of the football club, so you'd want him tied down. And Salah, you know, after turning £150 million down last summer from Saudi, I then don't see the logic of selling him. So,
of course, yeah,
he's an interesting one because he's on tons of money. There's obviously clubs who'd like him. He has all the leverage now because he knows if he doesn't sign a contract. Look what Kylian Mbappe has just done, where he's just gone. Obviously, at different stages of the career, I understand, but someone will be willing to give Mo Salah heaven and earth to get him. So it's a very uncomfortable position for Richard Hughes. I mentioned before at the top of the show. He took over a pretty full inbox, and as it stands, to be honest, it's even fuller than it was. Not much has been done on that regard. So the question's an absolute fair one. At the moment in time, you mentioned about the nervousness in the transfer window and stuff. This situation plays into it. Liverpool have got 3 of their best players out of contract in a year's time, and that's not a good place to be. And Liverpool have usually been better than this. If a player's been run their contract down, it's because Liverpool kind of wanted them to. I reference like a Gini Wijnaldum or Roberto Firmino.
Yeah,
we could have. You know, that was Liverpool almost saying, "Listen, time to go. We'll move on." I don't think anyone wants any of these players to go. Trent's the big worry, with Real Madrid name being knocking around all the time, and I mean, name a team in Europe who wouldn't want Trent Alexander-Arnold. Very few. So, yeah, that it is a concern. Don't sell them. Want to keep them, but yeah, it's not comfortable at all. It's very, very uncomfortable.
And there we go. What a great conversation. Our first Meet the Opposition in the books. Don't forget, we are partnered with Match Bingo. Start the season off with a bang. Get £20 free when you deposit £10. All Premier League games for August are buy 3 cards, get 2 free. And bingos for the new season is buy 2, get 1 card free. Match Bingo. Download on your tablet. Go to your Google Store, your App Store. Over 18s only. Be gamble aware. But Talking Town, partly with Match Bingo once again for the 24-25 season. Thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you for the match reaction after the Liverpool game Saturday. It's a big one. Looking forward to it. We'll see you soon.